Right, let's move things on a little bit and let's look at animation. So, if we take one of these, in fact, let's give us a bit more light to be able to work with. So, if you know where your light is in the scene, if you've remembered where you put lights, you can always find them via that channel. But also, just to give you another way around, as long as if you're looking for the directional light in your scene and you can see I can start typing in that field of the outliner. That will highlight the directional light, and I can turn its brightness back up. Let's go with 5 lux as the value to use in there. I've just clicked that back out because also it's handy to have the list of everything at times so you can do something with it. Right, so let's make a door, an animated door that runs across this section of our level. I'm going to make the door so that it's triggered when we walk into a trigger. So I'm going to make the door draw across sideways. Let's make the door out of one of these boxes. So I'll just select one, Alt drag to be able to bring it across. Clearly, this box at this point in time doesn't make a very effective door. So let's go and have a look at its transform properties. So the transforms applied to the object of location, rotation and scale are going to be the ones, particularly it's the location value, that we're going to use to make this door move out of the way. So you can see how all of these can be set manually. I can change my rotation value to be able to square that thing up. I can change the scale value for my object here, either by scaling it in the viewport or by typing a new value directly into that window there. This controls the Y value of my object. You can see that's going to be the depth, thickness of the door in this context, so I'll change that to 0.5, and this can change the height of my object, so I'll set that value to 3 is probably too big, 2 kind of looks a bit better. Okay, so there we can see the door set up as it runs through the wall. Maybe no point getting too fussy about where it sits here. This is all going to be highly unrealistic that it just forces its way into what appears to be a solid wall, but there's a bit of me that would be happier seeing it fitting just inside the bottom of the door. And then we can also see, right, that one there, probably 4.5 is going to be a better, in fact, come down a little bit more. So the key point to notice is how any object, in this case, it's just a box, just like one of those, but it has its world transform structure, and the transform can be edited by me. You can see here as I'm moving its position in terms of where it currently sits, can be manually edited. And of course, if it can be manually edited, we're going to be able to change it in the code as well. So if we take the door here, currently selected, bring up my blueprint window. In the level blueprint, okay, that was my that was the node that was currently moving the thing around. So you'll already have your trigger box within your script. What I want to do here is to give this a more meaningful name. So you see, I deleted it from, if you delete it out of your blueprint window, because you can't rely upon it updating the name in there, though the reference will update, it just is the name that shows up on it that won't, as a weird, poor quality of life change. So here, let's call that door trigger. So I've made that change to the trigger. I'm going to right click in here. Make sure I've got the trigger selected. Right click, add event, collision on active begin overlap. So there's my door trigger begin overlap event. I'm not going to bother turning that light off anymore. What I want to do is to now get the reference to the door. Right click, add event for static. Oh no, not event for static mesh. I'm going to add the reference. Okay, so we've got the cube. What I want to do is when triggered, I want to set that cube into a new location. So I want to set world. Okay. Strictly speaking, it'll probably be a good idea for me to show you the set world transform, which enables me to set all of those values, but we'll keep it a little bit simpler by just working with the set world location node, which actually takes us to just one part of that struct to be able to set its position. Let us determine where we want it to be. So, actually, yeah, we'll do that in a second, yeah. So, at this location here, this is the closed position of the door. When it's open, I want the door to be here. So if I have a look at what its value is, that is, what, 1888. Don't really need to worry about the 0.404. So go 1888, then 1718. Sorry, that's 1714 in it. And let's be consistent by using the same value here as in here. And then that one is 95. So let's take that value from there and pop it down there. So at the point I hit the trigger box, I'm going to set the position of that box to be in that opened location. That done, let's move it back into its starting point there, compile the script, and then let's hit play. So now we're in our level, the door is closed. It would have been helpful, in fact let's do that now. I was about to say it would be helpful to mark the location that I want to use for the trigger. So we bring this across. I do also foresee a problem that we're going to see in a minute with this door. I sort of deliberately left it. I'm just giving myself a little bit of a platform to be able to work on. I'm giving you a little bit of a sneak preview of what I'm anticipating the problem to be at the point, because I've now intersected this with the ground. Coming down here, I'm going to turn simulate physics off because that box is never going to be able to happily get into that position in the ground. We'll also see, if we go to the materials on this one, let's change the material that we're using to give us, trying to find a nice bright shade in the starter materials that I can use for it. I'll just scroll down until I find something. Okay, that'll do. At least it's somewhat different to the others. Right. Okay. So I'm going to hit play. At the point, remember this is showing where that trigger box is. At the point I enter the trigger box, that was my door. You can see the fault. Just do that again so you can see the problem. Hit play. Okay. It's sitting there. As soon as it moves, it's entered into the physics sim. So it does open the door, just perhaps not in the way in which we would have anticipated. More to the point, it would also probably, I haven't tested this out, I bet I can probably just barge my way through it. No. Oh, I just triggered it. Let's just see. They you often need to like test out what happens with physics. If no. It's well wedged in there under physics. Anyway, point being, if I want that to move and I don't want it to fall over and I don't want to have problems with insecting the door, what I need to do is just like for the floor, I need to turn physics off. So that should now work quite nicely. So at the point I step on the plate, the door is pinged open. Do it again. Door has pinged open. Right. So at least we've got the door to open, but perhaps not in a way that's most interesting or is most believable. It probably wanted to gradually slide open. So I have to do a little bit more. I have to be a little bit more refined within the blueprint script to be able to get it to do this for us. So instead of just setting it to a new location, what I want to do is to set it to a new location regularly over a period of time. So I'm going to add a little bit to its x value to get it to move from where it begins to where I want it to end up. To do that, I'm going to need a variable to be able to help me achieve it. So let's create a variable called door position. And my door position variable wants to be a variable of type. What do I want this to be? Yeah, it's going to be a. Okay. I want it to be a vector 3. Right. So you can see that a vector type is the expected input for the location of our object. So I can use door position to store its location value, which I can feed back into the set world location struct at the end here. It's going to be part of my initialization. So what I want to do is on begin play, I want to, in fact, let's get a reference to the door again. So I've got the door selected, right click, create a reference. Then I want to get its world location. And then I want to set this to be my door position variable. So drag door position over in, and I want to set door position. I'm going to set door position to the value of the world location of the door. So for a setter, you plug into this side of its value and plug it in there. All right. So what this is going to do is on my begin play, I'm going to grab the existing location of the door and I'm going to store it in door position. So I'm ready to vary it over time. Just to show this in action, if I now on my, let's do a bit of a hacky way. Instead of now my new location being that value there, let's do a little bit of, let's do a bit of hacky maths. So we can do it with what we've got. So here I'm going to set door position on this point. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to start by getting door position. I want to only change the X value of door position. So I'm going to need to break the struct pin. So you can see I've split the vector into its separate values. In order to then use these, I'm also going to need to use the same on the setter. So I'm going to split the struct pin there so I can set the values independently. The X and the Y, I don't want to change. So they can feed straight across. On the other hand, what I want to do is to take door position X and let's subtract a bit from it. Let's take, how far did we want to move? If we take 1 meter away from it, 100, and then we'll add that value back in to its new door position. So that little bit of script here, let's move this along so I've got, it's all getting a little bit congested here. So what I'm going to do first of all is to update the value of door position. Then after I've updated the value of door position, I want to get hold of what its current value is. So I'm going to get door position and use that. Rather than this fixed value, I'm going to use the value that's held within that variable to set the new location of the door. Plug those two together. So what's happening? I overlap the door trigger, get the current position of the door, subtract 100 from its current location, rewrite that back into the variable from its current location X value, rewrite that back into the variable, then use that to be able to set the location of the door. So it's going to step open each time I go into the trigger. If we have a look at how that works, we hit play. Okay. As I step into the door, opens a bit more, opens a bit more, opens a bit more. Okay, so you can see the door and will keep going because there's no safeguarding of that as we come through. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we had something that would do that automatically for us over time? An event that fires on its own over and over again. Well, we do. What we're looking for to be able to do something here is to be able to have something that's running this on a, let's set this so it works on a tick event. So I'm going to break that link there to the door trigger. And instead, onto here, let's do, in fact, let's just do tick. Okay, so event tick. What does event tick do? It fires every single frame. I think based on our default configuration here, our frame rate is going to be 60 frames based upon the complexity of the level and what we're running on. So this event is going to fire 60 times every second. So now, instead of moving it 100 units in that direction every step, let's bring that down to 1. So it's going to move 60 units per second. The door will slowly slide its way open. What's happening here is the event tick is going to be perpetually running, subtracting a bit, and the door will be in perpetual motion. Compile, hit play. You can see the door is already sliding over to the left. It's a part of me that wants it to go the other way. Don't know why. So here, if I instead look for a math add, there we go. Instead of doing a subtract on my X, what I'm going to do here is to do an add of 1 on my X, feed that back into there, And now, the difference we'll see when we hit play is that my door is moving in the opposite direction. And we'll keep on moving, and eventually we'll pop out the other side and move in perpetuity forever and ever. So, I probably want to do something to be able to stop this from moving. I think, is this where I'm gonna, okay, yeah, we will carry on working with what we've got. So, I could have left the minus in now. So I want a door that's only going to open till it reaches a certain value. To be able to do that, I probably want to use a Boolean variable to tell me that the door is actually open and to stop moving the door at that point in time. So let's create a variable. Let's make that variable a Boolean, and we'll call it door open. Right. Then from my event tick, I want a branch. Okay. So if door open, I can use a getter on that. In fact, let's just compile and set the default value for this. So door open, its default value is false. The door starts off closed. Right. So if door open is false, I want you, or at least I want the script. Break that link there. If door open is false, then add a bit to our variable, set the new position, and then let's check what the value is. So what I want to do is to compare float. So at what stage is the door open? Once it gets to below about 18, let's call it 1870, the close point of the door. So is the value of door position you can see what I only want one of these, don't I? I just want the X. So again, right click, split struct pin. So is the door position X? Which way was it going? It was going up, wasn't it? Yeah. So is door position X smaller than, sorry, greater than 1870? If it is, let's take my door open variable and let's set door open to true. Okay. So what should happen here is we're going to get the door opening up till it gets to 1870, then it should stop. So where I've typically end up with my greater thans and less thans reversed. So see it opening, we should get to the end. There you go. You can see we've hit the limit on the variable, so the door has stopped in the open position. So there we've got a nice little bit of simple conditional control of a door. I want now to be able to make it only open while we're standing on this trigger. So let's take what we've got there We've got my door trigger. So let's set another variable, a boolean, which is about whether the door is active. Okay, so compile. You always have to compile to be able to set the default value. So it starts off door active is false. On begin overlap, we're going to set door active to true. Okay, in our branch here, before we even check whether the door's open or not, let's put another branch in and let's check if the door is active. So if, sorry, my event tick goes into that branch, this branch. So if door active is true, then we're going to then check if the door is open. And if the door is active and the door isn't open, we're going to go into moving. We're going to go into moving the door. If door active stops, then we want to change the condition to false so that the door will stop. So here we've got our on active begin overlap, which sets door active to true. We'll take my trigger and we'll do the end overlap. And using, that was a control V by the way, and we'll set door active to be false. Compile, hit play, go into our level, door's not opening, step in the trigger, door starts to open, step out the trigger, the door stops. There we are. So there you can see a nice handy bit of conditional control. We've got the use of the tick event to be able to generate a constantly changing value. We are setting Boolean variables to be true and false. We are setting and checking float variables by using simple math operations. I think with that we've got quite a nice set of functions, or functions the right term, I don't know, a nice armament that you can now use to try and make interesting things happen in your own game space.